It's how you move through your day. What are you paying attention to? What are you watching? What are you liking? What are you eating? I feel like many of us, we're an engine, right? We're like this engine, and the more positive energy that we can really start to cultivate within, it will change how we move through this life. And I think you can only do that if you learn to be mindful, if you stay in the present moment, and you become aware that your work starts within.
Hello and welcome to the Stroke It podcast. I'm JJ Townsend, your host. Thank you for joining me. I'm so excited for you to be inspired to live your life fully, to take ownership of your time, your schedule, and your life, but most importantly, learn and grow and develop personally and professionally. Myself and others are going to share life lessons that we've learned through leadership, through heartache, through pain, through struggles, and we'll be sharing some success stories with you as well. Super eager for you to dive in, learn, and grow. And once again, just take ownership of your life today. Hello and welcome to the Stroke It podcast. I'm JJ Townsend, your host. I am here today with JJ. She is an industry leader. She's all about empowering women that have tried and tested strategies. She's about mindfulness, energy practices, and her goal is to increase your impact and influence. JJ, thank you so much for joining me today.
Oh, Jenny, it's such a pleasure. I've been waiting for this conversation.
I have too. We spoke a little bit before we started recording. I'm excited for you to speak to our listeners today. I think you have a lot of great information to share. Before we jump into that, can you give us a little bit more about who you are, what season you're in, and that way our audience can connect with you?
Oh, that's fantastic. Well, I just finished my third book and I turned 50, which was a huge goal of mine, is to get my third book done before my 50th birthday, which happened just a couple months beforehand. And I would say that I'm definitely shifting. I've been a woman in STEM and tech for most of my career. And I just got a call even before we jumped on this to say, hey, would you do some more work in the STEM space? But I'm really honoring my calling, which is to work on raising the feminine energy. And to do that, I am working to share different energy practitioners and tools and techniques that I've used to really dig deep, to sidestep the guilt and the self-doubt so that I can really align with my natural gifts, which one is connecting, to really help women illuminate their path.
Okay. Now, when you say all that, it sounds amazing, and I'm looking forward to what your future holds. Is there something that happened in your personal life, or was there something that caused the shift that you would be willing to share with us?
Heck yes.
Okay.
Right? I mean, it's funny because just a friend came over on Friday night and she was saying her dad passed away. She lost her job after 21 years. She's like, everything's falling apart. I'm like, or is it? Is it falling apart, or is the universe asking you to do something different? And I have really learned over the years that things happen for you. So if you're going through a series of things like falling apart, which if you do any tarot cards, it's like the Tower card, where everything just falls to shit. And you're like, all right now. And that's kind of what happened to me. Personally, professionally, everything was kind of moving along, and then everything just kind of and I really thought I just thought I'd have a lot more joy along the way, and then layering on stuff in my family and in my house and with friends. And I just had to really take a serious pause and be like, all right, what am I supposed to be working on? Why is the universe shaking up my world? What does it want me to work on now?
That's interesting. I actually had a guest, her name is Stephanie Capone, a couple of weeks ago, and she actually just read my whole human design. So I was just learning all about the planets, and my world went to shit a couple of years ago, but as she said, the worst has already happened. So the future is looking really bright. So if you haven't done human design or any of that, I would encourage all of our listeners to do that. Did you do any of the human design?
Oh yeah, I definitely know all that stuff about myself. Enneagram, numerology, human design. And I actually studied all through the pandemic birth charts, because the birth chart for me, which basically uses the same information, right? The day you're born, what time you're born at, in what city, same for birth charts or human design, gives you a map of the planets. And for me, the birth chart was so telling, which is the underpinning of human design, but it kind of tells you what your life's work is. And I feel like most of us see glimpses of our life's work, but because it's so innate to who we are, we often dismiss it.
Yeah, I totally agree. Or we're not open to reality of what's happening, or we're wanting to shove it down. No, that's not true, or something like that. So that's awesome. Well, I'm really excited for you to share some great information. So all of my work has to do with love languages, communication, and a lot of that has to do with my past as well that led me to where I am today as well. So how are you incorporating the love languages into your life?
Well, I definitely think it keeps my marriage going. That's for sure. because I'm definitely quality time for sure. Words of affirmation, secondary, I think. But quality time for me is really a big thing. And so if I don't get that quality time for a series of days, I just feel like so alone. And I feel like it really, for me, is something I have to prioritize. So walking is a big thing. We walk, 5 days a week. And for us, it's how we connect, how we stay connected. And even with my kids, like I'm really big on getting them out of my house and traveling with them or doing adventure nights or when they were little, but now we just do activities. And even tonight, like I haven't feel like I've had that super good quality time. So like we're going to go to dinner together and just sit around a table where we can all just be. And I feel like that's really big for me. But my kids are avid travelers because I've traveled most of my career. I have tons of miles and I take them to so many places. And that's been really just such a highlight of my life, is seeing the world through their eyes.
That's amazing. Have you used quality time or any of the other love languages in your professional life? Because I know, like, obviously you have a huge background in the tech world and traveling for work.
I think so. I mean, I think I have good relationships both in my professional and personal life because I really am, one, I have a lot in my eighth house in my birth chart, which means I like to get into deep topics. I'm not a surface talker. And two, I'm a good listener. So I feel like it really helps me kind of be in the moment that I'm in and really empathize with people that are going through, whether it's a project plan or a change of a job or, for trying to figure out the next step. I feel like those moments and then you like engulf it in the quality time really allows me to be on the journey with other people.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. I think that just puts things into perspective for people as well, especially if you're managing teams and you're working with a lot of individuals. I know that for my workplace, I know everyone's love languages and I want to be able to cater to those, especially with giving kudos. And I know we're going to talk a little bit more about employers in the future. But before we get there, let's talk about stroking ourselves. I know that you are doing this. I love the background of your wall as well. It's very positive and it's encouraging as well. So let's break down what you do on a daily basis to empower yourself, make yourself feel good, and what are some tips and tricks you can share with our listeners so that they can take care of themselves first?
Well, that's not easy most days. I think most of us hit the ground running. So I really turn my phone into an education device. So my phone, you're not going to find me scrolling through social 10 times a day. Like that's just not going to happen. So my phone, you'll find it on Audibles first and foremost. You'll find it on YouTube where I download a lot of my meditations. And then three, I just really get my work done anywhere I can do it sometimes so that when I do get home at night, I'm not working till all hours of the night. So I'm very efficient on making sure that I can get back to people in a good, timely manner.
That is super, super hard. I even know with me, like trying to do a bunch of different projects and everything, it's like, how do I structure all of this and get it going? So when you're on Audible and you're doing all these educational things, I know you mentioned the meditation. What are some other great things that you're educating yourself on that helps with your mindset and with your mental health?
Well, in 2000, I was guided by a therapist to start going to, when everything kind of started falling to the wayside, I ended up going to a therapist saying I had no joy, but it was really because I had all this stuff happening. And she was really the catalyst for me that pushed me into a mindfulness course. And it was not easy. I was not a natural mindfulness participant. I'm a type A personality. I strive and drive. That's how I define myself. And it took me like 3 or 4 classes before I actually like really gave in to the learnings. And then another set of classes after that to really make sure that I understood what was happening. And I would tell you, it is the greatest gift that I've given myself is gone to a John Kabat-Zinn 8-week class. It was local. It's not taught by him. It was taught by one of his students, but it has given me such great perspective on being in the moment. And in the moment, that's where everything happens.
Right. Okay. So when you say type A personality, talk to the type A personalities and get us where we're encouraged or we feel like we can actually go to an 8-week class or do a mindfulness, because a lot of people say, oh, I can never sit there for so long. I can't do yoga. I can't do meditation. Help us wrap our brains around maybe the benefits or getting there and sticking there.
Well, I would say that having a schedule where you're always in your head, you're planning for the future, strategizing, making the plans, or reflecting on the past can be incredibly exhausting. And it can make you feel worthless and at times guilty and many times alone. And I know this because I've been in that place for decades. And I will say to you that after, 7 years of mindfulness, I would never, ever go back to that mindset because I missed so much of my life. Because even even the things I was super excited about, like girls' night out or a trip or something, I would work my way through it. Even if I didn't have a piece of paper, I would be working the entire time in my head. And what mindfulness has given me the opportunity is to step back from my brain, step back from my ego energy, step back from that constant chatter and recognize that that is just a piece of who I am. It likes me to believe that it runs my engine, but in reality, it only runs my engine if I allow it to. And mindfulness has given me the space to quiet myself, not my mind, because your mind is never going to quiet. Anyone who's even tried to do meditation, I used to try to plan my grocery list and do a strategy project all while meditating, which is funny because I didn't really know what I was doing until I had a really official teacher. So one, I would say get a real teacher. You can try to do calm. You can try to do, that didn't work for me. Like I needed a teacher over my shoulder saying, get rid of the notebook, stop grinding. What are you seeing happening in your head? And I needed a teacher to really guide me through the process to let go of what I defined myself as and allow myself to be in the moment and to be an observer of what was happening in my head. Because once I created that space, I'm able to then decide if I want to listen to it or jump into it. Now I'm just like, I think I'd rather just sit here for a few more minutes and not think about that. And I think that we think we're in control when we're in this mindset of go, but actually we have a complete lack of control.
I'm like listening to it. And I'm like, oh my gosh, you're totally speaking my language. I'm sure a lot of people can resonate with what you're saying. So when you say get a real teacher, is this someone on YouTube and you just follow them and you listen to them? Are you finding someone in your community, or you're finding someone online? Like, can you give us some examples of teachers or people that
There's teachers everywhere. I guess for me, I needed somebody over my shoulder because I was a tough student and I didn't really believe in it. And I thought it was a waste of my time. And so if you're like me, I needed like a physical person in front of me being like, this is what we're going to do. I had to pay a lot of money to do it because I feel like if I didn't pay money to do it, I wouldn't have done it. So I had to kind of know who I was as a person and like work in orchestration to be sure that I was like in it. And it took me months and months to even like figure out what the heck I was doing. But I will tell you that once you get on the other side of that hurdle of doing and doing and doing and doing, oh, it's really nice because you really get to kind of step back and be like, do I want to do that? How do I feel about that? Why am I feeling guilty? Why are they making me feel guilty? Why am I letting them make me feel guilty? Like you really get to start questioning your existence and like at how you're participating in the world. And I feel like my whole book, third book, is really about the struggle of the illusion of success, the chasing of the metrics, and being completely overworked and not really knowing what to do next. And it's this journey of really diving and working from the inside out, which I was never taught to do. I was always taught to strive, get, achieve, and experience. And I just really didn't learn how to start from the inside.
So that's absolutely amazing what you're saying. So the name of your book, what is it going to be called? And
Yeah,
when's it coming out?
It's Seeking. And it's called Seeking. It's on Amazon. I'd encourage you to check out the reviews because I think it really kind of speaks for itself. Is people who have read the book have leaned into that certification or have quit that job after 24 years or have finally started that project off the side of their desk. It gives you real strategies to kind of get over the hurdles that hold many of us women in a standstill.
Okay. Yeah, I'm definitely going to be checking that out, and we'll put that in the show notes as well. So you had mentioned something earlier, and I want to dive into this. So when we're talking about type A personalities and we're talking about all the things and seeking purpose and doing what you want to do or strive and drive and, listen or jump into it, did you find that through this mindfulness and through the meditation and having these coaches allowed you to kind of fine tune or go into your feminine energy more, being a type A personality?
Eventually, type A personalities really tend to lean to the masculine energy. We all have feminine and masculine energy. So, I was in high tech in Silicon Valley. So if that gives you any indicator of where the energy was falling, it was highly to the masculine. And I think the wake up call for me, and I'm seeing it in many other people, is like things just start falling apart. And it's really because you're supposed to be kind of really working more on the inside to figure out why you're here on the planet and the work you're supposed to be doing. And I think for many of us, it's just who's got time for that? Who's got time? And so oftentimes the universe universe makes time for you, and it's a great gift because I don't think I would have gone down this path if I didn't have like a crack in my marriage, if my dad didn't just have a stroke, if my biggest client didn't just leave, like all these things kept happening. And it really was like, what the heck am I doing with my life? And why do I feel so displaced in so many ways? And why am I not feeling the joy I thought I would have by now? No joy, no joy.
Yeah, it's challenging. Recently have been channeling my feminine energy because I was very masculine as well, starting a company and doing all those things. And I actually had a woman on our podcast a couple months ago talking about masculine and feminine energy and kind of leaning into it. And a lot of type A personalities, boss babes, and these people feeling like they have to achieve so many things in a short period of time, and channeling those metrics and looking at that. It has been freeing. And I think that's kind of the work that you're kind of moving into. Is that right?
Well, yes. And so I visited, now it's over 100 energy practitioners. And so, I really was just seeking to find out who I was and how do I just find things that are holding me back and work through all that. So I have chapters on my relationship with money, my relationship with my mother, how I use perfectionism as a tool to hide behind. It was like all the deep excavation work I had to do to really get underneath the covers of why I was such a high producer. And most of which is because I just wanted to get there. I wanted people to see me as valuable. I wanted to make an impact.
Are you looking to enhance your relationship with yourself? If so, get the Stroke It Guide. My book is available on Amazon and on my website. Not only is my book going to help you with your personal journey with yourself, but it's also going to help you with the relationships of other stakeholders in your life. For instance, your spouse or partner, your employer, your employees, your friends, or your family members. And of course, because the title, there is a chapter for your pleasure, which is the last one, in the bedroom. The book offers lots of great tools and resources. There's a lot of great downloads, and it features many of my podcast guests, and they have thousands of downloads and resources that are worth a lot of money. So you're going to want to get my book today. You can buy that on Amazon or on my website, and you can change and take ownership of your life today with one simple click.
And I did all those things in many ways, but I still didn't feel like I thought I would after all of it. And so making kind of a hard right turn and really exploring different ways to learn more about myself, which is how I really viewed it, was an opportunity to kind of lean into the softer side of who I was. And it's been amazing. It's been amazing. I still have masculine energy. I've got to-do lists all over my desk, but I have a lot more knowing. I can tap into my whispers. I feel like I'm not doing this alone. And I just get to meet with amazing people, really creating incredible experiences like you are to make the world a little bit more cohesive on the right and the left side. Because as we know, the planet definitely needs more feminine energy.
Right. So when you're talking about feeling the value or feeling valued and that you were doing a great job and having the to-do list and feeling you had accomplished all these things, that people would see you in a certain light, do you think that goes back to your childhood?
Yes. Oh, heck yeah. Oh, yeah. You got to go way back to why you picked your parents. I mean, that's a big thing. Like why you picked your parents. Your parents are part of a huge, lesson of some sort for you. And yes. And I came up through a household where my mom felt trapped most of her life. And so I had to figure out how that all fit in, and we didn't have any money, and like, how did that all fit in? So but it's amazing when you start to follow the breadcrumbs of like all the little things that happen to you and like how that has cultivated you perfectly for where you are right now. And now it's really up to you to lean into what is calling you. And I think a lot of people, I do a lot of keynote speaking for women's events in the corporate world, and they all have aspirations to have more influence and impact, but many of them don't get started because it seems like such an uphill. So like, how can you get started with just like one phone call, maybe researching a couple documents or a couple people that are doing something a few steps ahead of you? Or how do you, just start writing whatever you want to write down? And I think for many of us, we often think of like, how is this going to get done? There's so much to do. And really all the universe is asking for us is to lean into one step today, one step.
Thank you for sharing that. All right, so I've got one more question for you when it comes to ourselves, and that is taking the solo trips. So can you encourage us to take some solo trips? And what I'm wondering is, how are you having the conversation with your family? How are you breaking away? it has to come down to you giving probably yourself permission and your family giving your permission. So can you inspire us to book the trip?
Well, I'll see what I can do. I will tell you that I am with you. Even to this day, I still have so much guilt. I really haven't figured out a way to get rid of the guilt. It's really about managing the guilt, especially if you have a lot of responsibilities. I'm going out of the country in a couple days and I'm still feeling guilty, even though I have my husband's here and there's all these things happening and I'm doing it for a good reason, but I still feel guilty. So I just want to say, like, the guilt is always going to be there. And it's really about you believing that there's enough value in the yes of leaning into yourself. And even if you're not totally sure, if you feel like you're called, and I go into this in great detail in the book of like the steps it took to get me to go on that trip. And it really started with me writing a presentation, after the kids had gone to bed, and I just needed like to refuel. I was like, I need to do something to refuel. I'm tired. I'm exhausted. I need to go on a retreat. I need to go somewhere that is away from all of my responsibilities. And I kept popping up to this website in Sedona. And every time I was on it, I'd read a couple pairs and I'd shut it real quick because already I felt guilty. Like, how could I possibly go there by myself? Like, how fair would that be? Now I'm making a wonderful salary, but I'm still feeling like super guilty about it. So then, I brought it up to my husband. I get into this big story, how he thinks he's going with me. And I had to have the like just guts to be like, thank you so much, because it was my 40th birthday and he wanted to come with me. And I was like, no, this is for me. But that felt horrible. It felt horrible. And I almost went back and re-invited him. But then after I kind of got through all that, then I had to ask my boss, which I had PTO, but we were always going through these huge conversions and there was never time to take vacation. So like how that all went down. I mean, it was a process. And even when I was there, I still felt a little guilty that I didn't invite my husband or that I was there by myself. But I'll tell you, like, you have to carve out time for yourself. And even if you can't go on a trip, like Sunday mornings from 11 to 1, or Wednesday afternoons from 4 to 5, like you have to find times in your schedule that you're doing something you enjoy. And this is not like retail therapy. This is like going to the park and listening to a podcast like this one, or you are walking in nature, or you start going to a class that you know nothing about. Tai Chi, Qigong, Kindalun. Oh, it's a yoga where you're like going like this, Kundalini. Maybe you're just doing something that's foreign to you, but you're curious. So I always say, follow your curious breadcrumbs.
You can do lots of great stargazing in Sedona as well. I did a trip a few years ago with my girlfriends, and my husband too wanted to go. And I'm like, nope, it's girls' trip. I need to do this for me. But having that downtime and having that sense of peace. And then obviously you're away from your spouse and your kids, which allows them to appreciate you more and you appreciate them too. So that's awesome.
Maybe you might get a lot of backlash. You might get a lot of guilt. You might get a lot of shade thrown at you, but you have to keep pushing through that, because that probably came up when you were younger that you're repeating in your significant other now.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, perfect. So let's move on to the significant other and let's talk about how you care for your family, how you take care of your husband, and the benefits of it, and maybe some cool tools or tips or tricks that we can incorporate in our lives to better the communication and the relationship as a whole.
My husband's a Manny Jenny and I'm a generator. So I basically run around just constantly catching things that are falling and doing like A through D as he's going from A to G to F to M to P, and I'm like, so I feel like I keep our life in order, which helps us move at a certain pace. So that's pretty exciting. But I think we really walk a lot. That's kind of our way of connecting. And so we're big walkers, and I think it's good for our health. I think it's good. There's studies show when you walk side by side or drive side by side with people, you have more authentic conversations. And, we have date night, and I feel like we really work to prioritize each other in a lot of ways that I don't know everybody does, in the sense of like, we prioritize our kids first, obviously, but we also have been doing date night. They're in high school. So we've been doing date nights since they've been babies. And that is just non-negotiable, even if it's one time.
Can you dive into that a little bit more of how you make that commitment to the calendar and what all you do to prepare for that, where it doesn't get canceled, it doesn't go to the wayside, it happens? Because I feel like a lot of times people want to and they talk about it, and then like 6 months goes by and they've had a million of excuses of why it didn't happen. So how are you able to keep that commitment to you and your husband?
Yeah, you bring up a good point. Like, we have help, like I find sitters. Like, I'm on Sitter City, or I'm in the neighborhood. I'm asking for sitters. Like, a lot of people that I know don't do it because they can't find a sitter. And I'm like, that is just not negotiable. Like, we are going to have sitters. And, we don't do 2 sitters a weekend. We do 1 sitter every 2 weeks. because they're pricey and can be pricey. But even when I was working full time, we always had somebody like helping us, a teenager or my neighbor woman next door. And sometimes we had a woman here, but I feel like it is what kept us going, because had we not, all of that would have fallen on me in a lot of ways. And I need a third leg to my stool a lot of times. It just can't be the two of us. We need to have somebody else. Now my daughter's older, so she helps us do stuff. But I think like you just have to get sitters. And if it's, if your family cancels on you all the time and you just can't imagine leaving your kids with somebody else, well, then you're not going out. I mean, that's the reality. So like, you got to have a little trust in people. I live in a city, I don't have any family, so that just wasn't an option for me. And I feel like you just have to invest in yourself. And sometimes that's getting help.
Speaking of help, I know a lot of moms or dads, if they're a stay-home dad or stay-home mom, or even working parents, sometimes I've come into contact with people where they're afraid to ask for help, or they don't want the help, or they feel like they need to do everything themselves. And can you kind of navigate some of that as well? Like how you allowed people to help you, or what was your mindset that you just accepted the help instead of pushing it away?
Oh yeah. Well, I really think about it as empowering other people. So like even today, this morning, this woman, she's a stay-at-home mom, but she created a business where she does your pots on your front step. And now she's gotten into fall like arrangements. And do I need it? Probably not. But does it help her business? Absolutely. So I had her come today. 2 weeks ago, I needed help. Like I was remodeling a section of her house and I could have put everything away myself. But I know another woman who has an organizing business, and she's like, hey, I could use some hours. I'm like, great, come over. We'll find stuff to do together. So I really see it as taking my money and investing in things that are important to me, which are other women's businesses. And so yes, could I do it myself? Absolutely. But why not empower somebody else? And that's how I look at it. I feel like my money has a frequency or an energy, and it's all about using it to empower more women, because that's usually who you're hiring. And I've even tried like electricians and stuff to hire women, because we hire men all the time for all kinds of stuff. So I'm always going the extra mile to see if I can hire a woman. And so I use the Facebook local community page. Like, is there any women that are electricians? I need somebody to help me, paint something. I've hired 2 women to do all the painting. So I'm constantly looking to further women business owners that would reciprocate in some of the things I need help with.
Thank you. Because we all want people like you to hire us and to source our businesses. I'm always saying women-owned business, support the women-owned business. So that's great. So let's segue right into actually employers, since we're kind of talking about how you're employing all of these women to help you and to obviously invest in their businesses. So can you give us a little bit of background as far as like management or leadership styles that's going to lead you to telling us like the best way to, take care of our employer or employee?
I think leadership is really synonymous with helping. I mean, if you're in a leadership position, you're helping moving things forward. And so my whole approach is, what do you need help with? What's the obstacle? What do we need to get done? And I feel like people really, 1, like to be appreciated. And 2, I don't think anyone gets up and starts work every day being like, I'm going to do a crappy job today. It's either they don't have enough information, they haven't been taught the right way, maybe they haven't had a solid example. So I think really figuring out ways to get the most out of people that you've hired. And to do that, you have to be in constant communication with them. You cannot throw a project over the fence and hope that it's going to come back the way you want it. And I'm an advocate of Upwork. I use Upwork all the time. I have 7 women that I hire that I'm working with right now off of Upwork, and they help me with all kinds of things in my business. And I really feel like there's no way I could get the books done, the retreats done, the speaking done, these really big, gargantuous projects if I didn't have help. And so you really need to ask yourself, like, what level of work do you want to focus on? Like, do you want to focus on the little things that you did when you're 20s and 30s, or do you want to focus on the big projects? And if you want to focus on the big projects, you have to let some of the little stuff go. Like, you're probably not going to be buying all the gifts. Like, if I know someone else is going to a birthday party that my kids are going to, I'd be like, hey, let me split it with you, or let me give you extra because you're actually going to Target to get the gift. Like, I'm not going to go get all the gifts. Not happening.
Right.
Can't do it. I got to really pay attention to, like, where am I going to focus my energy on? I'm going to give you a sheet to share with people. It's a sheet, it's a chapter, and it's a chart, and it's called The Power of No. And it's really gives you a tool of how to focus your time, especially if you have big aspirations to do big things. You've got to let go of the little stuff. And if you can let it go in a way that it still empowers yourself and others, win-win.
I love that. So when you're talking about constant communication, can you break down some really great communication tools or ways that you communicate with your team for efficiency and for time management? And then again, I feel like some of us are like, oh yeah, here's A, D, and then here's Z, but they don't always fill people in on all the other things that they maybe need to give them or their expectations. So can you break down some communication tools or tips for us?
Easy, easy, easy. I have a weekly call with everybody I work with, especially and sometimes two in the heights of projects. But like Mondays are my call days. So I go through every Monday with key people on my team of things we're doing for the week. And it keeps me on task and it keeps them on task. And then, we use Google Docs. So we're sharing documents all the time. That's super easy. And then I feel like there's a gal for me who all she does is research. So I always loop back with her to show her how I use the research. So I just teed up the third season of my podcast, and I had her all for 3 months. I was sending her all the people that I wanted to interview, and she was creating a massive spreadsheet for me, which I initially created the spreadsheet and then she just filled in all the spots. And I would like say, hey, this is going to be, separate everything out and do it. And so once she did the spreadsheet, I went back and showed her the email I sent, the Calendarly I created, because my hope is next time she's going to be able to do that part. But I wanted to loop her in on the full process. So like people that are helping you, they don't just see a sliver of the work, they actually see it come to fruition.
So you're actually training them as well.
Trying to, yeah, because I don't want to keep doing all this stuff. And if they move on to something else, at least I gave them tools that they didn't have before. And, this woman in particular, she's on Upwork, she's fantastic, but she's getting out of an abusive marriage and she just needs to work. And hopefully I can be helping her kind of level up her skill set for the next role.
Right. And then on your Monday morning calls with your key individuals, can you just give me an idea of like the time frame? Is it a 30-minute call? Is it a 60-minute call? And then also, do you have time in between to do like recap notes or follow up with them?
So I do notes right when we're speaking, or better yet, I have them do the notes, and they're 15-minute calls. So I literally do 10 to 11. I can knock out 4 calls, and like they're taking notes, or if they're driving for some reason, I'm taking notes. And so we're sharing, must do this week, nice to get done, issues, can't get done, not going to focus on that anymore. Whatever the, 3 or 4 categories are.
Okay. And then when you're managing people, obviously we want them to be happy. We want them to be productive. We want them to be appreciative, or like them to feel appreciated. What are some of the things that you're doing for them that make them feel like that you really value them?
Always sending notes, thanking them, words of affirmation. I'm always thanking them, but I'm also, sometimes I'll send them a gift card. That's kind of a big thing I'll do on Amazon is I'll send them a gift card, or on Upwork, you can give them a tip. So, or sometimes I'm just connecting them to more people. So if I have somebody I really like to work with and someone has a similar issue, I connect them to the people I'm working with on Upwork and they hire them, which I think is great.
That's awesome. Okay. So just a couple more questions when it comes to employers. So when you think back to your tech days and when you were traveling, can you think of an employer or a manager or a leader that you had that made a huge impact on you as far as making you feel valued and like that you wanted to be part of that organization for a duration of time?
Oh, sure. I have many great leaders. I mean, really great leaders that would go the extra mile, that would put you up for an award, or that would really just highlight your work with your name attached to it. There's plenty of people that will take your work from you, no problem. But there's quite a few leaders out there that really want to shine light on the people on their team that are making it happen. I've been fortunate enough to have those people in my life, which is fantastic.
I think it's super important. I have a company and we do an annual awards ceremony where we give out awards to 5 people. And I think it's just really, really important to acknowledge people's hard work and their dedication to your mission. So if there's anyone that's listening that's like an employer or manager, is there anything else that you would like to encourage them to do to be a better leader?
Well, unfortunately, I think some people get promoted to leadership before they're really leaders. And I think a lot of it comes from within. So leadership comes from within. It's not something like, it's not time-based. It's a selfless role in a lot of ways because you're empowering others to achieve. And I think a lot of times leaders can sometimes see it as more of an ego-driven activity, but in reality, it's not that at all. And I think that you attract the energy you're at. So if you have people on your team that are driving you crazy or not producing, like buck stops with you. You have to adjust. I remember I was with the GE leader, Jack, and he was basically saying that, there's most great leaders don't have to worry about diversity because most great leaders, there's a list of people that want to be on their team.
I would agree with that. So when you said some people are promoted to a manager or to a leader before they're ready, I can think of some people that have been promoted before they should have been promoted. How do you backtrack from that? Or is there a way to navigate that? Or do you just have to train them or build them up? I mean, how do you
Well, some
how
of them
that
have been
works?
promoted before they're ready above me. So, I feel like, and some of them have been promoted, when I was above them. I feel like it's just like, it's more of a key check-in for them. Like if you're managing people and people keep leaving your team, or if you have hostile team members, or if you are not getting your stuff done on time, like all of that comes back to you as a leader. And so you really need to do the inside work to produce the outside results.
That's great. I love that. Awesome. Well, JJ, that is fantastic. So before we wrap up, is there anything else that you would like to share with our listeners today? Something that they can implement, take home, maybe something that you've already said that you want to remind them of, or any final advice that you'd like to share with our listeners today?
There's so much to pick from. I mean, so many things we didn't even touch on, but I guess the one thing that I really recognize through all this work that I've done is that it really comes down to my energy. Where I am with my energy really attracts the energy that I'm going to experience, the relationships I'm going to experience, the work I'm going to get to do. And I feel like you really have to manage your energy. I think it comes down to really not only how you talk to yourself, which is how we started the podcast episode. And we talked about being mindful of your words, how you talk to yourself. It's how you talk about other people. It's how you make decisions. It's how you move through your day. What are you paying attention to? What are you watching? What are you liking? What are you eating? I feel like many of us, we're an engine, right? We're like this engine, and the more positive energy that we can really start to cultivate within, it will change how we move through this life. And I think you can only do that if you learn to be mindful, if you stay in the present moment, and you become aware that your work starts within.
Such a big statement. I think some people are like, I need to do that. But getting to that mental state or getting to that place is so challenging, I think, for so many. So check out Seeking, her book. Once again, so tell us, your book is on Amazon?
Yes, on Amazon. Check out the reviews. I want you to see it firsthand from others, but Seeking 74 Key Findings to Raise Your Energy, Sidestep Your Self-Doubt, and Align with Your Life's Work.
Sharing that in our show notes. Thank you so much for joining us today. And do you have a website if people want to connect with you, or should they connect with you on social? If people that are listening today want to connect with you, how do they?
Yeah, social, JJ DiGeronimo. So that's how you find me. You can find me on all platforms, and I do answer my DMs. So drop me a line.
Okay, awesome. And do you have any upcoming events or retreats or anything else that we should be on the lookout for?
Oh my goodness, all the time. My daughter and I are working on a mother-daughter retreat, which is exciting. So that's going to be fun. That's going to be in November. And I'm working on, as I mentioned earlier, I'm going to be working on ways to help more women get published. So that's going to be a huge initiative that's going to take me well into 2020.
Well, JJ, thank you so much for all your wisdom and your time and all of your fabulous energy today. I so appreciate it. We'll include a lot of the links in the show notes, and I wish you a beautiful day.
Oh, thank you, Jenny. And thanks for really the creation you're doing here. And I can't wait to read your first book coming up here soon.
Yes, thank you. So if you enjoyed this podcast, give us a review, and I challenge you to send it to 5 people. We wish you a great day, and we'll check you on the next one. Thank you for tuning into the Stroke It podcast. I hope you were inspired. I hope you're willing and ready to take some action. I want to encourage you to consider 5 people that could benefit from today's podcast. Super simple to share this episode. You never know who could benefit from hearing this podcast and how you could inspire them to create the change in the life that they're wanting. Cheers, and thank you so much for tuning in. Also, consider giving a review.